much of it to say about this, and check this out.
Throughout Marvel's immensely long lifespan, they have introduced several iconic and incredibly unique characters to their roster. Their pantheon is full of some of the most intricate gods, monsters, heroes, and aliens in all of comic book history. But one character in particular continues to be one of the most bizarre. We are of course talking about Modok, the sentient head who uses his mechanical chair to carry out his nefarious schemes. For years, a live-action iteration of Modok seemed to be pushing the bounds of even what Marvel Studios was capable of in terms of making a live-action adaptation of Modok, and making it as believable as possible. Yet, with the recent release of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, we did in fact see a live-action depiction of Modok, albeit with some pretty fundamental changes to his origin and character. So, who exactly was Modok in the comics? How did he differ in Quantumania? And what aspects of his original backstory were omitted for the third entry in the Ant-Man franchise? What is the Modok that we all deserved? Well, come with me today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's analyze the backstory and history of Modok and compare him with his live-action counterpart, and see exactly what we all missed out on. Spoilers ahead for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. In the comics, Modok actually began life as a human scientist by the name of George Tarleton, who worked as a lowly yet brilliant mechanic for the organization known as AIM. As a part of the research team responsible for developing the Cosmic Cube, Tarleton's intellect was immediately put to use until he grabbed the attention of the Scientist Supreme, who sought to experiment on Tarleton for AIM's own agenda. The Cosmic Cube was one of the first and most elaborate experiments that AIM had ever sought out to conquer, as the device was stated to have the ability to alter reality itself. While the endeavor was certainly ambitious, it also exceeded the mental capacity of even AIM's brightest scientists, and they simply didn't have a way to comprehend the power of this cube. Computers and machines were helpful, but lacked the human creativity and processing power to actually understand the cube in human terms. But all was not lost, and AIM tried to develop a solution by drafting what became known as the Modok program, which in this case was spelled with a C at the end rather than a K. The original acronym stood for Mental Organism Designed Only for Computing, and the goal was to create an organic human mind with the capacity to calculate on a level of a computer. And this should, in theory, allow them to comprehend the cube and further their experimentation with it. For this program, Tarleton was selected, and the idea was that the experiment would grant him a superhuman intellect and augment the incredible mind that he already had to offer far beyond what they were currently capable of. This would then allow him to head the Cosmic Cube program and lead more developments in science and technology, allowing the group as a whole to exponentially increase their productivity, all thanks to this new Modok. From here, AIM began the experimentation on his brain, and for a while, it seemed as if the experiments were showing promising results. His mind became stronger, and he became more easily able to comprehend and compute complex problems that most human minds could not process. But there was some additional, albeit unintentional, consequences. The experiments came with the unintended side effect of physically growing his head far beyond what his body could physically support. His frail spine and frame were quickly overwhelmed by the weight of his cranium, leading to a miserable existence, and therefore AIM tried to develop something else, something known as the Doomsday Chair, believing that the Doomsday Chair would be the answer to Modok's current problems. This Doomsday Chair, the golden mechanical superweapon which Modok rides, granted him an arsenal of AIM's best weaponry and gadgetry, turning him into a portable superweapon. In Quantumania, we got an up-close look at the Doomsday Chair and several of its capabilities, many of which seem to be closely aligned with that of his comic book counterparts and what he has to offer. With this development of Modok, not only did his intellect and power set grow, but so did too his ego and his ambition, which ultimately allowed him to rise through the ranks and assume control of the entire organization known as AIM, and the very organization that began experimentation on him in the first place. From this point on, Modok was the figurehead of AIM. After overthrowing the old age of the leaders, he was able to restructure an advanced idea mechanics into his own image, and it was under Modok's leadership that the group was able to thrive, making continuous advances in the fields of science and technology. And it was here that he amended the acronym. Rather than continuing to go by the mental organism designed only for computing, he used the weapons at his disposal in tandem with his newly inflated sense of ambition and ego to become a living weapon with very violent tendencies. This is where the second version of his name comes into play, which was showcased in Quantumania, that being the mental organism designed only for killing. In the years since, he has been a constant thorn in the side of the Avengers and several other superhero teams within the Marvel Universe, and AIM continues their firm foothold in the scientific community. In Quantumania, very little of this backstory was actually left intact, and the identity of the character itself was altered significantly to fit with the story that the MCU sought to tell. In the third Ant-Man film, it was revealed that Modok was actually Darren Cross, the antagonist formerly known as Yellowjacket from the first Ant-Man outing. In the MCU's depiction of events, it wasn't experimentation that led to Cross's head being disfigured. It was instead a malfunction in the Yellowjacket suit as a result of Scott's sabotage. As he shrunk down, his head remained intact while his body was crushed down around him, and in this new state, he was found by Kang's forces. While the remnants of Cross's original character are visible, there seems to be minimal change in terms of Cross's original personality. It also hasn't showcased any augmentation to his intellect, as the original purpose of Modok and its program was to grant Tarleton superhuman intelligence. Cross, however, while certainly a smart individual and businessman and respectable scientist, did not have his intellect impacted in any way by this transformation. Many fans believe that this to be a particular disservice to the character of Modok and what he otherwise could have been, while others are praising this change and the change from the original source material. But regardless, the inclusion of a live-action Modok seems to have been met with mixed results, and controversial opinions nonetheless. So then, my friends, which side of this, if either, do you fall on? Do you think Modok was done justice in Quantumania in the film? Or do you think his introduction could have been done better? Also, do you believe that there is another version of Modok out there, and that we could see another version of Modok in the MCU in its future? Do you like the changes that were made to his character and backstory, or do you believe a more faithful adaptation of George Tarleton would have been a better option? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching and continuing to support the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.
Subscribe, like this video, great videos.